Hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment of me showing off the design work for Anchorage. Tonight I have or today, I have a major design sort of, I'm showing off stuff, and it's just a major project update. This one actually starts near Whittier, which is to the southeast of Anchorage, and it's just a major port area, with a rail line that's leading under the mountain. I explained all of this in a prior video, but this is essentially where the major port area that was described in the DLC was located, where the landing zone essentially was. So I built this here. It is already completed. You can already see the design work with the port itself and the rail lines heading into the mountainside. And I actually flipped which sides it was located on, but that was by need just because there wasn't room to build like how it looks in real life. As for the tunnel heading into the mountain, it too is fully designed. In fact, you can kind of see how it goes in the actual mountainside itself. Um, and that leads us to over here. So the rail line that leads into the mountain exists both in the real world and in this game. Originally, this was held with I had like a placeholder here, but then I came back and I redesigned the entire thing so that you could actually walk. And you can see where both tunnels link up underground. So yeah, this now exists in the actual mod itself. Similar, but not exactly how it looks in real life. So yeah, that leads over here, which of course leads you towards Anchorage, which is over here. However, there is more. Now to cover something someone is probably going to be way more interested in, the artillery overlook. I built this. That's right, the artillery overlook has been completed already. It is in the actual mod. The designs for the cannons themselves were fully just kind of synthesized from scratch, kit bashed if you will. And just, it looks a lot better than how it did in the actual, the original DLC. So this is how it looks kind of for this mod. And you can kind of see how they're built more into the cliff face and just, rather than being resting artillery pieces. Now, you already know about this area, which was the valley that existed in the DLC. So I'm not going to show it off again. But what you likely don't know is that the areas for... Here, let me show you this. This area actually made it into the mod as well. I didn't have to lay it out thoroughly, but I did just for this project in case someone wants to do more with it. So that's why this got a lot of TLC. And that brings us to the next part. So the U.S. Army base that existed in the actual DLC with the pipeline heading north. Right. So to give a brief recap of all of that, U.S. Army base really located in Valdez. Oil refinery really located up here in Fairbanks. Pipeline went like this. So Valdez, where the U.S. Army base was located, actually made it into the project as well. And you can see it loading in right here. So this is what the oil refueling station, where they do the exports for the oil heading to the U.S. mainland, looks like. This is what it looks like. And then you have over here, which is the actual layout for the town itself. Once again, this is Valdez. The landing strip actually made it into the project as well. And you can just kind of get the vibe of how it's supposed to look. But I did a whole lot more than just this. You can actually follow the pipeline all the way up here to the pumping station. And this leads down to another area I'm about to show off in a second. But for now, I also want to show off this. I've also created several black sites, which will be dotted around the map, that people can use in their own projects. Here's one. You can see how it's designed right here. Just like a classic evil villain sort of lair. But now I want to show this off. As I said, the actual pipeline will follow the route that it normally takes, all the way up into Fairbanks, which means the ranger station, which would be located right here, apologies, made it into the project, as did this, Glen Allen. You know, also Copperville. This whole pocket right here made it in, except it's more like a sort of U.S. strong point. The town really has been shelled to hell. And you can see the pipeline continuing, and of course, the railroad which cuts to the town. The railroad itself leads over here to the bridge, which of course leads you further into the actual mining complex. So the mine itself, which was in the DLC, also made it into the project, as did the railroad nexus. And here's the tourist office, and you can just see how it's looking. And by now you've probably also noticed that I took some real time here to make the mountains look really scenic. I'm not sure how how it's going to process when I do an LOD, but I'm hoping that the rock actually renders correctly. In any case, onward. So from here, orientate. There we go. Pipeline heading north. Heading this way with the pipeline, and if you head to the west, you eventually hit Lake Louise and the U.S. and the Chinese siege lines for both sides. And to the north, you eventually cut through the mountains and you hit Fort Greely. Fort Greely, you know, in briefness, is where they were maintaining the Chimera tanks. So then you have the lake, which was right here. All of this is DLC content that has been reinvented. The U.S. siege lines. This is the U.S. side. Artillery units for both sides were kit bashed, so they have unique equipment. But this is how the U.S. lines, or the U.S. side of the defenses, look. This is the design for the new lake. It looks very different from how it looked in the DLC. No man's land in the middle. And of course, over here, the Chinese side of the defenses. So yeah, this is how it looks. So you can go from the U.S. to the Chinese side and everything in between. Now know what you're probably wondering. You're probably wondering, well, you know, you had to skirt the Chinese defenses to get up past Lake Louise and then attack the actual fort to take out the Chimera tanks. This is where this is the only thing I've actually bullshitted thus far. And that is the path to do that led from here all the way up here and around this mountain pass. In the real world, this mountain pass doesn't actually exist, because if it did, it would exist right here. So I kind of BS'd it slightly by putting it right here instead. So it's like the only negotiation I've made with what actually exists. In any case, you can make it around, and then you can attack from down here, and you can attack the base. And that takes me to the point where I have to explain the base. And to do that, I have to start down here with the town. So moving north from the town takes you along this road, which is this path in real life, up past Paxson, and then you would attack. Then Fort Greely is right here, just south of Delta Junction. That made it into the project, and you can see how it's supposed to look. And this would be Fort Greely. I loosely based it upon that exists in real life. You can already see some of the buildings that made it in, such as these right here. The nuclear reactor made it in. And then to the north, Allen Army Airfield also made it in. And this is meant to be more like a sniper's paradise, where you'd have to take the fort. I have 3 of these in here, which are the motor pool areas, so that if people want to add the tanks in, they can do it themselves. The Army airfield is right here, and I actually did something really cool here by putting some hangars into the actual mountainside. That doesn't exist in real life, but I thought it looked kind of cool. Nuclear reactor, high transmission lines sending power up north to Fairbanks. And you can see the road itself and how just the general terrain is supposed to look. I have to come back through here and add some trees and stuff later on. But you follow this path and the river, which exists in real life, specifically this river, up past Delta Junction into Fairbanks. And you can see it here. And Fairbanks is still under construction. That covers the big details of the DLC content that has been penciled in. There is more to it. In fact, I can show off some additional really cool shit right quick. But as I do so, I also want to explain that I'm doing a lot more stuff too. As this progress advances and I have to expand the map, I'm also going back and redesigning older content, of which I will show you in a moment. One thing that got redesigned was this rail line. Initially, it was just a underground tunnel, but then I came back and I integrated it into the cliffs themselves to make this really cool path. You can see them. And how it integrates further into this township right here. But that isn't the only thing that got redesigned. For those of you that go back and watch an older movie, older video, you'll notice that this road right here, specifically, my apologies, let me reframe this, the highway that leads up through this mountain right here, up to Nenana, it goes through these mountains right here. That wasn't in the original design schematic because I initially wasn't intending to have the map expand all the way up to Fairbanks, but it had to be changed. So the actual mountain road was reinstalled right here. And with it, pretty much everything along this road got redesigned to accommodate it. And the path leading up to the entrance for the ascent to Mount Sovereign also got redesigned. And then since the backside of the mountain would be viewed now, Mount Sovereign also had to be redesigned. So the military base, and once again you can go and compare this to an older video, the military base atop Mount Sovereign was also entirely redesigned, as well as a piece of the actual path leading up to it. And the summit was moved to right here. So yeah, Mount Sovereign got really big changes done to it. And you can kind of see where I have to pencil in the new terrain right here. The objective at present is to get Fairbanks done, Nenana done. There's like a quarry up here that also gets added into the design. And that covers the northern edge of the map, essentially. At some point between Nenana and Fairbanks, I have to pencil in the refinery, which isn't like perfectly, geographically correct, but it's like the best I can do with what I have available to me. And then, this edge of the map comes out this way and will include mostly the farm ships heading away from Delta Junction. I'm going to do some other stuff with it, mainly crashed bombers and the such, but that's about it for that. As for the western edge of the map, thus far I haven't penciled anything in, but with the northern edge of the map being extended essentially out to right here, there is going to be a lot more done to the actual mountains. I'm still looking into ideas for it, but without giving too much away, I'm just going to say like the Dunwich Borer Company will have more to do with this project than I originally intended. It'll be cool, but it's one of those things where I wasn't intending to do it originally, but circumstances are going to force me into adding it. So that's all I wanted to show off for now. Alright, I'll see you guys later.